The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we'll cover some Austin FC news. We will be joined by Apple TV's Sacha Kljestan to preview the FC Dallas and Houston Dynamo matches this week. And then we're going to be joined by two of the other members of the Moon Tower family, Steph and Mike from Moon Tower Soccer, to do some listener questions. My name is Landon Cottam, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and I don't have a great memory usually, but Landon, do you remember what you were doing exactly 2 years ago today?
Exactly 2 years ago today? I have no clue. Probably recording a podcast with you.
No, hopefully you were inside Q2 Stadium, with today being the second anniversary of the first home game.
Oh yeah, I forget how years work. That 2 years ago today wasn't a Monday.
Wasn't a Monday night, right? Yeah. So June 19th, 2021, first home game, first giant tifo. Matthew McConaughey in a green suit, the giant drum.
That's right.
No goals, but it still felt like a pretty interesting game. Do you have any other real memories from that?
My memory is garbage, Jeremiah. I can barely remember anything that happened like 2 weeks ago, much less 2 years ago. But I remembered like thinking how cool it was after we had been doing a podcast for like over a year at that point, right? And so to be like thinking about it and talking about it and dreaming about it and wondering what it was going to be like to finally be in the stadium was very, very special. And like, I don't remember a lot of details, but I do remember feeling that.
The other big vibe that I remember is that I don't know if I had been in a room with like more than 100 people for a long time because of the pandemic. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, here's 20,000 of my closest friends, all in one place. But it was just cool. We got there early and walked around the stadium and got to just see like all the people that were involved in sort of the movement and everything else. And overall, it was a really exciting day. So I just can't believe it's been 2 years. It's one of those things that seems like 10 years ago and yesterday, both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we are going to try to dedicate a big chunk of this show to the listener question segment. And then we also have the interview with Sacha coming up. But let's jump in and cover the Austin FC news of the week quickly.
So do we know anything more about Alexander Radovanovic than we knew last week? We thought we knew more last week than we actually knew. But yeah, I don't think there haven't been any updates.
No, I think maybe a couple of more like little Easter eggs on his wife's Instagram, but nothing confirmed. My guess is like he does appear to still be here, so I'm guessing if he's healthy enough, he'll at least be on the bench, just because we have to have him if he's available. But yeah, no news.
And then the transfer window is going to open soon, and we've started seeing other teams make announcements of players. Is center back another position? I mean, are we assuming at this point he's probably going to go back? And so do we think also be in the market for a center back?
I think we almost have to be. If he's not going to be here and Väisänen out for another couple of months, like we can't rely on Julio Cascante and Alex Ring, both who have had injury issues in the last couple of years. We can't just keep using those guys, because if one of them goes down, it's then we're playing Nick Lima, Johan Valencia as center backs, and they're both short kings, as the kids like to call them.
Right. Yeah, and I guess, is Amro Tarek ever going to play another game? It's that's the weirdest signing and roster position, and that just seems to be one of the things Austin's really hamstrung by. I don't know, but it's a weird situation. And one of the pre-announcements we have seen is Leo Messi to MLS. We talked about this a little bit at the FCito game on Sunday because we didn't talk about it last week. Like, what do you think he's going to look like in this league?
I'm guessing he's probably going to be really good and then probably disappear at times as far as like being involved in the game. But like he was able to do that at the World Cup like a few months ago. I think he'll be fine in MLS.
You think he'll turn out okay? Do you think, gosh, can you imagine being like some journeyman MLS guy, play college soccer and, finally getting a few minutes and like coming up against Leo Messi? Like that would just be, I don't know, that would be the most intimidating thing in the world, I would have to think.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing if we don't know when he's going to play, but like his first game, there's a non-0% chance that it's like that kid you were just talking about, it's his debut or something. And like his first game as a professional is against Lionel Messi. So that's crazy. Like I honestly didn't think this was going to happen, just because there's been all these rumors like he's 100% going back to Barca. He's 100% doing this. He's 100%. And like, we got so many of those reports. I was just like, call me when it's done. Like I'll believe a rumor when like he's talking about it publicly, and that's happened now. And so like, I am excited about this. I know a lot of people talk about like the retirement league narrative, and there's some weird stuff like based on like how he's getting paid and all the incentives they're throwing into that package, which are weird, but like it's worth doing for this man. Like he is massive. And you look back at what David Beckham did for this league, the league has grown so much, and not only due to David Beckham, but he was a big help. And so the number of people who are going to start paying attention to this league because he is playing is massive. And that's in other countries and in this country. And so if he comes in and wrecks shop, then it's because he's Lionel Messi and people are going to watch. If he comes in and struggles, then it's like, okay, MLS is a better league than most people thought maybe. And so I think we like MLS wins as a league either way.
Yeah. You know, and the Beckham comparison is the most natural one, but like Beckham was also not coming off being the leading scorer in the World Cup, right? When he came to MLS, he was already like objectively kind of sliding down the scale as far as like the best players in the Premier League were.
He did have a good season for I think it was Real Madrid that he came from, and he had like he was.
Oh, that's right.
People were like, he's kind of washed, and then he had that one good season. They're like, actually, maybe he's still really good. And then I think he had his ups and downs as far as playing goes in the league, but as far as just like the impact he had, as far as visibility and profile of the league, it was immeasurable.
Yeah, and I guess my last question is going to be, if somehow we get a Messi match in Austin, are you going to sell your ticket to make like your whole season's worth back? Or are you going to hang on to it for the chance to see Messi play at Q2?
Well, yeah, we were talking about that last night. You said you would definitely keep yours, right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I have 3. So that the one thing is I would probably keep one for me and Jackson and sell the third. I figured probably come out okay on that. But yeah, I'd hang on to it. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to have the chance to see him, so I would do it.
Yeah, I'll keep mine as well. I did get to see him play in Barcelona one game when I was studying abroad there in college. It was a game that didn't matter, and he was not trying, and so it was like not the best of Messi. But I did get to see him. But to see him in MLS in Austin, that would be really special. So I would for sure keep mine. I had another question about this. Would you want him to be on your team? Like as a fan of Austin FC? I'm glad he's in the league, but I don't know that I would want him to play for Austin FC.
Why would I not want him to play for my team?
It's gonna be a circus. It's gonna be an absolute circus.
That's true for sure, and he's gonna be the focal point of everything. And obviously, it gets a lot less special if you have him for 17 games as opposed to 1. But I'll take him if he's interested in coming.
Think about like the access that people like us get. We're like in the category of fan media where we do this on our own time. We have full-time jobs and we do this on our own time. Like maybe the club stops giving us opportunities to talk to players, to talk to staff, to do things like that. If Lionel Messi is here and there's 100 media instead of the 6 or 7 that come to the things. And like,
see what we have there. Yeah.
Like I could see a reality where people like us get pushed aside a little bit. And also it's just like I don't know, maybe this is like a gatekeeper hipster opinion, but like there would be a lot of people showing up and paying attention and wanting into the club who have not been around before. And I think that would be weird too.
That part I definitely can buy. Like,
and
how would Q2 on game day be different from all the people who all of a sudden never cared about the league that showed up and were clogging the place up and probably wouldn't. I would guess the environment might suffer a little bit too, even in the supporter section from having sort of tourists.
And I know like long term, I was just saying like we want those people to pay attention. Like we need those people to pay attention for this league to succeed. But also selfishly, like I kind of like what we have going here, and I don't really want that to change overnight, essentially.
Which is what it would do. Okay, well, let's go from like this is going to be a beautiful transition. One South American international player to another South American international player. Almost the same guy, right? Basically,
That's
talent
right.
and scale wise. Dani Pereira getting his first national team experience. So he gets 45 minutes the first match, plays the second half, ends up on the game day poster for the second match, and plays about 60. And from what I can tell, just from Twitter reactions and people analyzing Twitter reactions, seems like he did pretty well. Seems like he has a future there as a national team player if obviously all these other side issues can get worked out.
Yeah, I got to watch all of his minutes, and he was fine. He, especially in the first game, he looked like the new guy. It was the other guys seemed to have a little bit of chemistry and weren't quite sure what to do with him. He got a little bit more involved in the second game when he started. But they also, like, Venezuela kind of bypassed the midfield a lot, whereas in Austin, like, every time we're building up, Dani touches the ball. He's kind of the focal point of the offense in Austin, and that was not the case for Venezuela. They were booting it long. They had Joseph Martinez and Solomon Rondon, and then Savarino and Soteldo on the wings. Like, they had a lot of firepower up there, and they were just kicking it straight up to those guys. And so he was less of a focal point. And so I think he'll need to learn how to play in that different system and just like pick his spots and show up when he needs to. But overall, I thought he did well. And I think just based on what I saw from the other players in that team, he does offer a different skill set than what they have available. So yeah, I mean, his like inability to travel to certain places or whatever might inhibit his future call-ups. But as far as how he performed and what he offers to the team, I think he definitely earned the attention at least.
Yeah, and so we think he's supposed to be back in Austin on Tuesday, and I guess it's going to be a matter of whether we'll see him with the first team or not. It seems unlikely that he's going to roll back into town and be in the lineup on Wednesday, maybe on the bench. But I expect we'll see more out of him on Saturday.
Yeah, I would guess like he didn't play so much that he couldn't be on the bench. But yeah, the starting lineup might be a bit of a stretch for Wednesday. But yeah, we'll see.
And his beautiful curls are gone too.
He shaved his head
at least a little while.
Is that confirmed that that's like some kind of like hazing ritual, or is
that's the rumor? But I don't know that it's what people seem very sure. Like, oh yeah, that happens. Like when you get your first cap, they shave your head. But I didn't see no evidence of anybody else having gone through that. So that might just be folklore too. Well, let's I guess before we take a break, there's a couple bits of FCito news I want to get into. One is Brian Ariano. From the academy signs a Austin FC2 deal this week, and we talked about this a little bit at the game. Like, why do that? What's our theories about what's in it for the club or what's in it for the player?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there could be a lot of things at play. One thing that I've said about this second team is that I think there's going to be quite a bit of turnover in this team from year to year, just because I think age gets overblown on the first team quite a bit, as far as like people get FIFA brain and think like, I have to sell this guy when he turns 29 or 30 so I can get it's like, it's not, you don't always have to work that way. But for the second team, the age does matter. Like a guy who's 24 and a guy who's 18 who are playing at similar levels, or even if the 18-year-old is playing at a lower level, like the 24-year-old is going to have a shorter leash, because if you're not like, you don't have the upside anymore. Like you are kind of what you're going to be. And so I could see some of these like 22, 23, 24-year-olds who are on loan or who are maybe just not playing up to the level. And like Austin FC is looking at these guys and saying, I don't think you are ever going to make the first team. Then they will probably not be here next year. And so a guy like Brian Ariano, who's 17 years old, who like maybe they're looking at somebody who is a starter, who is getting minutes for Austin FC too, and saying like, this guy is not in our plans for the future, but Brian is 17 and still could be. This is them locking him in and saying, okay, we're gonna buy the Brian Ariano lottery ticket, at least for the next year or two, and hopefully this pays off in the future.
And I think the other thing, yes, that's probably true. And so I think they also probably there must have been some kind of outside interest for them, I think, to want to lock him down, or some
maybe
possibility that somebody else was gonna want to sign him, because I don't know why that would happen otherwise. So we did. Went to my first FC2 game on Sunday night. It was pretty warm, but had a really good time. I think, well, the two most interesting things for me, like Sebastian Pinau has like Was this his first start?
No, he started a few games.
Okay. Well, he had a really good game. He
did.
He scores twice. He's been
starting a lot lately. And Alfonso Ocampo Chavez. I almost said Alexander Ocampo Chavez, which he started most of the games this season. And Pinot is, I don't know if this is an injury thing or a form thing, but he seems to be the preferred starter, and he showed up and played really well.
So he ended up picking up a 4-0 win. And then Sal Mazzaferro has the greatest combination of short shorts and short socks. I feel like as far as the total leg display ratio for either the first or second team, he was rocking it. And he had a strong performance too. So I loved it. Had a great time. It's good to hang out with you, Jackson. Had fun. Talked to a lot of folks that listen. Talked to the North End guys for a while. Talked to Sean Rubio. Apparently Jackson was trying to pump Sean Rubio for like summer transfer signing. Sean was pretty good. He gave up no information to my son, who's decided he's a journalist. But man, I can't wait to go back and do it again.
One notable thing from the lineup is Kip Keller was there as a fan, but not suited up. So I think that probably just means we're talking about lack of center backs. I think he's probably just going to be on the first team for the foreseeable future until we get some more coverage there, or maybe not. Maybe he's the plan.
Well, I think it's about all we need to say about this one. You ready to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be right back with Sacha Kljestan to preview the Dallas and Houston games. Moontower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fvf.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. Amplify's team lives and works in the community, making them the experts on how members can achieve their financial goals.
What makes Amplify different? No bank fees. Amplify is the first financial institution in Texas to put an end to bank fees. In 2022, Americans paid almost $8 billion in overdraft fees alone. Millennials paid an average of $336 a year in bank fees, which works out to 6 Austin FC game tickets per person per year. You'll pay none of those bank fees with Amplify Credit Union.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more, go to www.goamplify.com/Moontower. All right, we are thrilled to be joined this week by Sacha Kljestan. He has 52 caps for the United States men's national team, 15-year pro career in MLS and in the Netherlands, and then, or was it Netherlands or Belgium? Where'd you play?
Belgium.
Yeah. And then retired a couple of years ago, stepped smoothly into broadcasting, and you're now a studio analyst for MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. First of all, thanks for joining us. And second of all, like, how's the Apple TV thing treating you so far? I think you're doing a great job.
Appreciate it, man. It's been good. I still live in California, and I just fly to New York every weekend, and I'm in the studio with some really great people with this, brand new show, whip around show showing everything, MLS 360, all the goals. So it's a long night of watching soccer, but it's amazing, and I hope the fans are enjoying it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that about that. I've always wondered, like, when you go there, how much of the time are you in the studio and like on the air, and then like how much time are you just kind of watching games and in between things on an average day?
We're on air straight for 5.5 hours, so it's a lot, and all those games are happening during that window. So we've got this giant screen that's got sometimes up to 9 games going on at once, and it's a lot of action to follow and try to analyze the games as they're happening when there's so much action going on, and trying to figure out exactly how games are going, not just following the scoreline. But yeah, it's a lot, but it's amazing.
So you're here to help us preview Austin FC's double Copa Tejas match against Dallas on Wednesday, then Houston on Saturday. So let's start off with Dallas. They're currently 5th in the West. Have had good stretches this season, but they've lost 3 out of their last 4. They have a lot of players missing right now, including Ariola and Leggett, who I think last news I heard was they might be back this week, but still questionable. But then missing Paxton Pomykal, Emmett Twumasi, and Sigi Sabaling, and then Jesus Jimenez is also out injured. So Hader Obrian is out on yellow card accumulation, and then Jesus Ferreira will likely miss this midweek one for the Gold Cup because camp starts on Tuesday. So looking at like having to start maybe someone like Jesus Mulatto at striker, who's played 37 minutes this year. What do you think this Dallas team is going to look like? And do you think they can kind of keep up their quality without all these players on the field?
I mean, what they will look like I think they will still try to play the same way that the Nico Estevez has got them always in a 4-3-3 most of the time, playing their same style of play, ball possession, attacking from the wings. But quality wise, no, there's no way you can replace the quality of Areola and Letjet and most importantly, Jesus Ferreira. There's just not replacing him in that team. He's one of the leading goal scorers in the league over the last 2 years. He's very dynamic. He can drop deep and also set up plays for the other runners up front. So this is a massive week for Austin FC because 2 massive games against your in-state rivals, wins in these games throws them back into the playoff picture, puts their season back on track. So a really huge week and a very winnable first game against Dallas with, like you said, so many guys missing.
Yeah, another point on that, because they are so tight. What, Dallas is 5th, Houston 6th. Like, not only is this like the other Western Conference opponents, but like there's ground to be made up because they're sitting sort of mid-table there, and it's still a super congested part of the roster. I mean, part of the table right now.
Yeah, no, the table is bonkers in the West. Like, you win 2 games in a row, any team right now, besides Colorado and the Galaxy, any other team wins 2 games in a row, you're going to jump up like 5 spots in the table and be looking at even hosting a playoff game at this point. Obviously, we have a lot of season to go, but it's so congested in the West, and no one has really separated themselves as like how Cincinnati has in the East. No one's really done that in the West yet.
So moving on to Houston, they're currently, as Jeremiah said, 6th in the West. They beat LAFC twice in a row. Maybe some of that, a little bit of CCL hangover on LAFC's part, but I mean, Hector Herrera looked like maybe he was going to be one of these like big name busts coming into MLS, but he's proved himself this year. Been really good. A few of the other guys have stepped in and been really good for Houston this year, but they've struggled to score consistently. They'll go stretches without really doing that. What do you think Houston's ceiling is? Like, do you think they're real competitors this year?
I think their ceiling is probably 5th or 6th in the West. I think that's about as high as they're going to go because they can't really win games on the road. They've been really strong at home. They've only given up 2 goals at home all season, which is great. And that they'll get to the playoffs just on their home form alone. But I don't think it's much more than that. You mentioned Hector Herrera. I agree. Last season, he was awful when he got here. Like, awful, bad, like partying, looked like he didn't care about the team. But now he looks like Ben Olsen has got him really bought into the team, is acting like a leader, is playing like a leader, most importantly. And the strength of that Houston team is the midfield between Hector Herrera, Carrasquilla, and Artur, who have both been really good signings for Houston as well. So that will be the more difficult of the 2 games for Austin, in my opinion. But Houston, yeah, ceiling is 5th or 6th in the West for me.
Do you think, I know people didn't seem super excited about the Ben Olsen coach signing during the offseason, but like what has been the big difference? Houston's, despite this fairly low ceiling, I mean, they've been a lot better this year than they have been in the past. Is it Herrera fitting in? Is it like what Ben Olsen's brought to the table? Is it some of these other guys? Like where do you see the difference here this year?
No, Ben Olsen for me has been the biggest difference. I played against Ben Olsen for a long time. I played with him on the U.S. men's national team at the beginning of my career. So I know him very well. And when he coached his DC United teams, it was almost exclusively a 4-4-2. Without the ball, just be hard to break down, be a team that's hard to play against. But now it seems like he's taken some time away after he left DC United before he joined Houston Dynamo. And it looks like he's had some more intricacies to his game now. He plays a 4-3-3. He's really getting the most out of his midfield in ball possession, which I think is very important when you play at home in Houston year round. When it's so hot, you have to value the ball and keep the ball and make the other teams run. And then he's got Hector Herrera actually bought in. So between all those things, Ben Olsen has really been the difference for me.
I believe Coco Carrasquilla is going to be out for this game due to the Gold Cup. What do you think that does to him? Like, are they deep enough to fill in for him, or is he going to be a pretty big missing piece?
I mean, there's not a lot of teams in MLS that are deep enough when some of your best players step out that you're able to have that same quality come into the starting 11. So I do think there is a drop off there in midfield without Carrasquilla, because he is one of the better two-way midfielders in the league, just with the intensity that he has and the skill that he has that he can play with for 90 minutes, especially in that Texas heat. He seems to like never stop running and fighting for 50-50 balls all game. So yeah, a big loss with Carrasquilla out.
Looking at Austin, just like we had a lot of the same guys from last year to this year. Some guys aren't performing. We've had some injuries. Some guys left unexpectedly. As a former player, when you look at this Austin team, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think is wrong?
You know, you've mentioned almost all the answers there. So you sign Gyasi Zardes to be your star striker, who's supposed to really help out Driussi, right? Not put so much pressure on Driussi to score 25 goals again. And that doesn't pan out, you know, until recently. He's got a few goals, right? So that's been number one. Diego Fagundes, you signed him to a new massive contract. He stops performing this season. Like there are also, these are some things that you can't predict. Like Gyasi has been a guy who has typically scored double-digit goals everywhere he's gone. He hasn't really performed up to his level yet this year. Diego Fagundes not up to his level. A lot of injuries in the back line that's forced Alex Ring to drop back and have to play in defense a lot. The one, I mean, and Driussi has scored some phenomenal goals and always seems to pop up at the right place at the right time, but he misses a month and you know, things don't get easier for Austin when he's out. I think he's one of the best players in the league, but I also don't think he has played fully up to his level of last year either.
He's been pretty hit and miss this year. Even in the games where he scored, there's been stretches where I thought he was quite poor.
Yeah, and then if you look at who's been the most consistent player for Austin this season, it's probably John Gallagher, and that's not saying something, because John Gallagher is a fine player. He's a very good MLS player, but he's not a superstar on your team. You need your stars to step up and carry the team. I think the one positive I've seen out of Austin so far this season is the play of the coach's son, of Owen Wolff. I think he has been very good. I really like the way he plays. I like the partnership with Dani Pereira in the midfield. I still think Dani Pereira needs to play even a little bit better. He's made some mistakes. Like, I played against him last season and I thought the kid was phenomenal. Like I matched up against him in the midfield and I was like, that kid's a player, but now he needs to take it to the next level. It's like, you're not a rookie anymore. You're not like a young talent anymore. You need to be a really solid best 11 type player in this league and show how good you are week in and week out. And he hasn't got there yet. So just a lot of inconsistencies from Austin this season.
So you brought up playing against these guys and then turning around and commentating on them. Does that ever put you in a weird spot? Like, do you ever wonder about what you're going to say, or like how somebody's going to react to something because maybe it's somebody you know really well, or like, how does that play out?
Yeah, that's something that I've thought about, but I don't think about it when I'm doing my job, because listen, if you're a professional athlete, part of the job is knowing that if you don't play well, people are going to criticize you. And that's my job now. Is I don't like to be Mr. Negative. I like to shine the light on the people that are doing things really well. But if you're a guy that's like Shaqiri, for example, you're the highest paid player in the league and you're not performing, sorry, dude, I have to call you out. The one part is where I was in a locker room 6 months ago with a bunch of guys on the LA Galaxy, and now they're one of the worst teams in the league and I have to criticize them, right? So yeah, it is. I've gotten some text messages. I know some people aren't happy, but listen, it is what it is.
Yeah, Apple's paying you now.
Yeah. I'm trying to be the best at something else now, right? Like, I'm not an athlete anymore, and I want to be the best that I possibly can be at my thing. So sorry to my friends or former teammates. If you're not playing well, you also got to take a look at the mirror and realize, you know, there's got to be a reason why people are saying I'm not playing that well. It's because you're not performing yet, right?
Yeah.
So your response is just play better. Just a 2-word text.
Good.
They won't have to do this anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I criticized Orlando, and I used to play for Orlando, and the fans hated it, right? And I said, dude, what I always say is you play good 1 week, you got to back it up the next week, and you got to back it up again. Like, you can never rely on one good performance, right? Keep backing it up, and then I'll shut my mouth, right?
All right. Well, Sacha, thanks so much for joining us. listeners, you can see Sacha on the MLS 360. Is that what the Whip Around show is called?
Okay. MLS 360. Yeah.
Yeah.
We start at 7 p.m. Eastern every Saturday night.
We don't often get to watch it because we're usually in the stadium or watching the Austin FC game. But whenever I have caught it, I've really enjoyed it. So keep up the good work.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
So Jeremiah, how are you feeling about Copa Tejas right now? What are the Copa Tejas vibes?
The Copa Tejas vibes is in how do I think we'll do this week, or just do I care about Copa Tejas at all? Those are two different questions.
Two different questions.
So let's just go with how I feel about this week. Like, I have no idea. I think the 11 days off are probably good for this team because like we could get some folks a little healthier, and we didn't have a ton of folks out on international duty. We've kind of already talked about Dani. You mentioned the injuries for Dallas. You mentioned Houston having Katarski out. It seems like the week gets good for results, but I have many, many times gone into a week thinking it was going to be a week for good results and been disappointed in it. Do you see anything other than sort of the up and down way Dallas, the way Austin has played all year out of this week?
No, I mean, it is a good opportunity for Austin based on what the opponents are going through. But as far as like what Austin's going to do, we've not seen much reason to have hope lately as far as like how the team has been playing. The last decent game we played, I think we lost anyway. And so like, I'm not super optimistic just because of the form, but I am happy to know that like these teams are struggling and there is an opportunity there. Talking about the Heat, like these two teams it's not going to be anything new to them, right? They're going to be training in same to similar Heat all week too. It'll actually probably be nicer here than in Houston on those days. So it'll be like a break for the Houston guys. But I feel like Austin is a team who has not played well in Heat. I mean, we didn't have a great home record for as good as our record overall was last year. We didn't play that well at home, really. And so like there's lots of reasons to not have a lot of hope, but maybe the other team's woes are the one bright spot.
Yeah, and I keep going back to the roster build during 2021, and I think it was a lot of talk from both Claudio and Josh about how this team's going to be built for the heat and take advantage of the weather and all those things. And you're right, that has not come to pass. How do you feel about the trophy itself? I feel like this is one where I care about it. I cared about it in 2021 because like that was the only potential bright spot. I cared about it in 2022 because Austin won it. I don't know if I care about it as much this year. Should I?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice consolation prize if you finish below the other two teams in the table. But if we beat the other two teams in the table or like beat them in the playoffs like we did with Dallas last year, and one of the other teams wins Copa Tejas, I'm not going to lose sleep about it. But if the table sticks kind of close to what it is now and we're able to win Copa Tejas, then at least it's something, right? Like some bragging rights, some bit of pride to have in the team.
And I don't want to belittle that parking lot celebration last year was pretty special.
That was very cool.
But that was a moment. It was a really cool moment out of that series. And I don't think you can count on getting on a moment like that happening very often. It was just sort of the set of circumstances put together. So it's 2 games in a few days. Obviously, Heat's going to be a factor. Heat's to the point where, as we mentioned earlier, one of the games got moved time-wise. Do you see a lot of rotation? Because we've also got the factor that Austin's hadn't played in 11 days. Yeah,
I mean, maybe I imagine they will go into the week intending to play just whoever Wolf thinks is the best 11 for both of the games. But like probably on Friday, they'll like see how guys are feeling, see how their performance is during training, and maybe make some changes the day of. But because there are, it's like 3 days off from the other game, and then we don't have another one for a week after that.
For a week, yep.
You can afford to push guys a little bit there. But yeah, the Heat is probably going to have some effect on it. So I imagine Wolf will hope to play his best 11 in both games, but may have to make some changes depending on how hard some of the guys go on Wednesday, and then how guys are feeling on Friday. All right, well, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Mike and Steph Cragnola of Swoon Tower Soccer, and we're going to do some listener questions. So hang tight. We'll be right back with that.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Covert Ford. The Coverts have been meeting the needs of local car buyers for 114 years because of their service, financial expertise, and support after the sale.
In addition to supporting car buyers, Covert's an important part of the soccer community and an official automotive partner of Austin FC.
Right now, Covert has a deal on a 2023 Ford Escape, stock number 2231182. The MSRP on this car is $34,005, but with a dealer discount of $3,006, it's available to you for $30,999 plus tax, title, and license. With approved Ford credit, you can also get this car at 0% financing for 36 months or 3.9% financing for 60 months.
If you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, be sure to check out covertford.com.
And Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by the Sage Wilson Realty. Thanks to Sage Wilson Realty, we'll be giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match, so fill out the form in the show notes to enter for your chance to win.
Again, this is made possible by Sage Wilson Realty, so if you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. You can find them online at sagewilson.com. All right, we are back. We are going to do a listener question segment / AMA segment, and we are thrilled to be joined by our good friends and members of the Moon Tower Soccer family, Mike Crignola and Steph Crignola. Guys, so good to see you.
Yeah. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends, and welcome. Yeah, it feels weird not to be doing that part.
So we with Austin FC on a break, we just thought it would be nice to have a relaxed segment of the show where we're not talking about maybe some serious questions, but mostly just have a little bit of fun. So we asked for some soccer questions, but also just we're just going to hang out and have a good time talking to our friends. So Mike and Steph were kind enough to volunteer to kind of play MC during this section, but maybe they can jump in and answer some of them as well.
We love asking questions that other people have asked already.
Yeah.
We love reading questions.
Right. All right. Well, Steph, do you want to kick us off here?
No, not really. Mike, you want to take this one?
Sure. Our first question comes from the Patreon, and it comes from Marcelo Tesson. And the question is, your thoughts on the future sporting director? Could it be Rubio? Are there any people out there who are realistic possibilities? And what would you want a successful sporting director to do with the team? It wasn't just one question, but they pay money to y'all. So here it is.
And I want to say, you guys don't have to read the question exactly as it is written. It's y'all are actors. Put your own flavor into it. Just make sure to get the general gist of the question itself. And let's make this fun.
I am respecting the people's time who pay us money every month. If they want to ask 5 questions in one, damn it, I'm going to let them.
Okay. I'll take I'll have an answer to, I don't know, a couple of these. Could it be Sean Rubio? I think it's entirely possible it's Sean Rubio. I think he's well respected. I think from my general notion of how open the ownership group is to going outside of its comfort zone, which is not terribly, that Sean Rubio is probably. And I love Sean, and he may be listening, so hopefully Sean takes this as no disrespect. But I think he probably would do a really good job. So I think it's a definite possible outcome out of this. Realistic possibilities. I don't know if this is realistic, but Ernst Tanner still had a contract at the end of the year from Philadelphia Union, and if I had a dream sporting director choice, I think he would be my guy.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of realistic possibilities, but we probably don't know any of those people's names, or don't know that they're possibilities. But yeah, someone like Ernst Tanner would be great. And I've seen people talking about, oh, it's easy. Just get Ernst Tanner and Jim Curtin to come here. I was like, everybody knows they're good. And so it's it's going to be like when we were talking about Alexander Collins at the end of last season, or in the off season. It's it's not as easy as just oh, we like this guy, let's go sign him. Everybody wants them. If they're going to be available, everybody wants them, including teams in Europe. And so I think there are probably lots of options, but the biggest and the best ones that we know of, it's not going to be easy to get them. They're going to have a lot of options to choose from. And so, yeah, Sean Rubio is well respected. So maybe he's the guy, but we don't have enough insight or view of what they're actually doing, or what kind of work he's doing to know if he's being seriously considered or not.
Yeah. The next question really, I wanted to take this one because I really just wanted to say Bundesliga. This is from Keith Simon. So thanks, Keith, for letting me say Bundesliga as many times as I can fit. What are your favorite clubs from each of the following leagues? EPL, La Liga, Serie A, Liga MX, Bundesliga, Liga 1. I don't know what that one is. And the Israeli Premier League. Oh, League. Oh, the French one.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
It's the other one I should like. Ligue 1.
Well, Keith, I am flattered that you think that I watch enough soccer to have a favorite team in all of these leagues. I actually don't have a favorite EPL team, which has been a blessing for the last several years because I see how much people suffer watching their respective teams. And so I just kind of like pick a team for the year and who's playing the most interesting soccer, the most fun soccer, and watch them. So watched a lot of Brighton this year. They were a lot of fun. La Liga, I lived in San Sebastian, which is where Real Sociedad is. And so I'll pull for them. And then Barca was kind of my first love. Serie A, I've been watching Juventus just to see Weston McKennie, but I don't really have a team there. Don't watch enough Mexican soccer, which I should probably fix. Bundesliga, again, whoever's playing Americans, I'll watch them. And then I have never watched a game of the Israeli Premier League.
You forgot Ligue 1.
Yeah.
Which, Jackson and I couldn't name a team beyond PSG. We had this discussion just last night, I think. So that would be one of mine.
I don't know.
Landon loves
Lille.
PSG.
Leo's my team because Weah plays there. PSG is like the most boring team in the world to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so I've got no teams in many of those leagues. I got Liverpool and I got Dortmund. I think of the two that I would actually say that I follow to any amount out of all these leagues.
And Mike, you're a Spurs fan, right?
Yeah, Tottenham, and from La Liga, it's Atletico Madrid to be specific.
Oh, because you lived in Madrid too.
Because I lived in Madrid and I had to choose, and I was never going to choose Real. As an outsider walking in, it's like, yeah, I'll take the 1927 Yankees. Like, that's not fun.
Steph, do you have any teams that aren't Austin FC?
I like Tottenham. I didn't want to get behind them just because Mike was. So I put together a spreadsheet of what I liked about EPL teams. And it turned out Tottenham anyway, because they're nice and wholesome. Sweet, wholesome boys.
Have we talked about my spreadsheet on this show? Because I also went and picked a team about 13 years ago for Premier League. Came with a spreadsheet, and it came down to stuff like at the time it was either Arsenal or Liverpool, and like it was either Paul McCartney or Osama bin Laden were like the most famous fan of each of those two teams. Yeah. So really, like 7 points in against Arsenal on that spreadsheet.
That tracks.
The next question we've got here is more in, I think, Steph and I's wheelhouse than the first two have been, from Trevor Allison. It says, Kit Talk. What do you want the new second kit to look like? Color, style, etc. And what would a dream third kit be? Inspired by an Austin person. We'll start there. Anybody have preferences for next year's away shirt?
Well, I think Austin has kind of painted themselves into a corner as far as options go, because I know like the first year we had the mostly black thing, and that means like there's only so many options. You can't do like a straight Verde thing. And then this year our home kit is like the more Verde colored thing. And so I'm guessing next year will probably be a white kit, blah, which the first time around,
I'm with you, Steph. Blah.
Did not go well. I really like the Sentimiento kit, like the mint one. So I'm going to be sad to see that one go, actually. But I usually like simple, clean kits, which is why I like the Sentimiento one so much. I would be fine with them doing something wild, but we should probably expect the base to be white or a light color like that.
Give me a collar.
Ugh.
Yeah, I want to defer to y'all's expertise on this, Steph and Mike. If y'all were deciding, the kits come out, I buy them. I usually hate them at first and then grow to love them. Like, I've learned to just not have much of an opinion on it, but like, I would like to know, y'all clearly have more style preferences than I do.
I would like Minnesota's kit from this year, but in teal and green and black, but exactly the same.
With a loon on it and everything.
With a loon on it, with with the Target logo in the middle. Yeah, just exactly the same, but in our colors.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I want a collar. I want buttons. I want it to look like someone's dad's golf shirt. I want it to be slightly baggy. I want it generally just to look out of place in 2024. That's what I really want. And if I can't have that, give me a crop top.
Something that like Paul Gascoigne wore in 1993 or something. I would be cool with us doing like a wild out there one, even though I just said I like simple ones, but like there's some like really popular ones, like the Seattle's Bruce Lee kit. I think it's terrible. I really hate it.
I hate that kit.
Of the weird kits, like the really out there ones, I think Philly's like Simpsons Cloud one is really cool. And so like something like abstract art like that I would be into.
I really think we can draw some either bat or grackle inspo for our next kit. And like coming from the way that looking at grackles have that same kind of like tealish blue green shimmeriness to the, I'm not talking about Minnesota anymore. I'm talking about grackle very often. But like I would love a black base kit, because that's what I want to be wearing in 105 degree weather. And I think that everything looks good with like a pop of color on a black kit.
And who is our celebrity that we style this mythical third shirt after, y'all?
Oh, man.
I mean, Willie's too simple. I mean, too obvious, right?
Too obvious, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know how you do it either.
And you can't do McConaughey because that's nepotism.
Yeah, I think Steph's on the money with like a non-human icon that you're modeling it after. I think that's the more likely option.
Ooh, I did just learn that Ethan Hawke was born in Austin. So
so an Ethan Hawke meet. This is the before sunset kit.
This is the Ethan Hawke as Hamlet 2000 kit.
You know those all over prints with people's faces on them? That's what I want, but sandy. And then the Austin FC badge in front of it.
That's great. Okay, we should move on.
Next question. Okay, this is specific to Landon from Alex Rubio. What is Landon's maintenance routine for that marvelous beard? Please, no Stuver answer. Also, sorry, JB. Landon has you beat in the beard department.
To be fair, though,
I can't argue with that.
Jeremiah does have a strong beard, though, too, for folks who have never met him in person. It's my, I've changed things and done different styles over the years, but my biggest tip for folks who are looking to grow a beard is find a nice beard oil or like a beard balm. It helps keep it soft. It helps you style it a little bit, and then it keeps like the dandruff and like gross stuff from getting all up in there. So yeah, some nice products. Invest in a nice product. It's not that expensive and usually lasts a long time.
And I want to point out, do not have a specific razor recommendation, but if anyone wants to give us any money, again, I'll be happy to promote any men's grooming product.
That's right.
Any single one.
Any single one. But right now, I have no preference.
Next question from Sean Collins. Which character in the movies The Warriors is most like each of you, and why?
I've never seen The Warriors.
I was gonna say, I feel like Sean Collins and I are probably the same generation that like watch The Warriors a lot, and y'all are probably not. But do you know the general premise of the film? Okay.
I know the bottles clinking on the fingers, and that's it.
I don't. My favorite group is like the because there's like 20 different gangs in this movie. The baseball player wins, like the baseball Furies. I think it's super cool.
That was my pick as well.
It
was the
sinister baseball bat carrying painted face group of crazy people. So yeah, The Warriors is a fairly insane film. Baseball Furies outside of the main groups is probably the best game.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, clear and succinct. Trevor Allison wants to know a much more difficult question, I think. What are some of your favorite bands and albums all time in the last few years?
Jeremiah, do you have something for this one? I can go if you want to think about it for a second.
Go ahead, take off.
Okay, of the last few years, the Sufjan Stevens album, this is probably 7 or 8 years old at this point, but Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens, I think, is a masterpiece. A more recent one is the first 2 pages of Frankenstein by The National. That's a band that I really, really love. All time, an album that like had a huge effect on my life is in middle school, growing up out in the middle of nowhere in the Texas Panhandle. The cultural like trickle down was very little, coming an hour away from Lubbock, which is already 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the cultural zeitgeist in the country. And my little town was 5 to 10 years behind that. So I was listening to like whatever butt rock was playing on the local radio and had very poor musical taste. And the band Brand New came onto the scene with the Sick Transit Gloria was the big single that like kind of pushed them into the mainstream. And it was like kind of a heavy rock song. And I bought that album like blind because like, yeah, this like heavy rock band. And then they like were kind of doing like some weird, like flirting into like more indie sounding stuff. And that was like a flipped a switch. Them and Jimmy Eat World like tricked me by having a hard rock single into listening to not hard rock music. And then that like shifted everything I listened to for the next 20 years. So yeah, those 2.
Wow.
Nice.
I love it. I have this like, I don't know if it's weird. I like some combination of like good old American rock, but sort of like telling a story. So I'm going to go with the Hold Steady. Love the Hold Steady. And the Drive-By Truckers probably have put out like albums I've loved for 15 years now or something, I think. Or
yeah,
more,
they've
maybe.
Been around forever.
Nice. My all-time favorite.
I, like everybody else, have stopped discovering new music. The music I like is the best music that was ever made, and I will never change or learn anything new.
Yeah, I was about to say that I try and keep up, but then my all-time favorite record is still Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and
all right.
so like I don't know. And then my like second favorite record is Give Blood by Bane, which came out in 2010, 2001. So like I don't know if that's actually true that I'm trying to keep up, but I do try and listen to whatever Spotify recommends me all the time.
And Mike, I know you're like a big punk guy, and Steph,
Yeah.
I know you like really like musical theater, but is that like your jam, or do you have other stuff that you listen to when you're not in theater mode?
It really depends. I do a lot of like Mumford and Sons indie folk stuff, but I'm not I have to be in the right mood to be screaming musicals in the car, which is often, but it is a mood-based thing. Otherwise, yeah. I'm kind of listening to whatever Mike's got on.
Next question here is from Nicole Blair. It says, Landon, what sources of information / methods do you use to pick your fantasy team? We noticed you're doing well.
I think I forgot to set it for these midweek games, so I might not be doing that well anymore. But honestly, it's not like my method isn't super complicated. It's Skylar Redpath, I think is his name. He writes an article for the league website every week and kind of ranks people at positions. And so I'll use that article to pick my base team. And really the biggest thing you can do is check lineups and make sure that the guys you picked are actually playing that day. That's the best thing you can do to increase your score, is making sure that your guys actually play. Other than that, like I don't know. I don't think that like if you do that, you'll do pretty well.
And Jeremiah, it goes without saying, I think, that we did not notice you were doing so well. What is your routine?
My routine is to get really excited before week 1 and pick a lineup and then never, ever log into the website or look at my team again.
Nice.
And I am 4 years maybe in a row into this.
Nailing it.
Consistency is important.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Alverde 10, and this is mostly to Landon, asking about your band exploits. So what bands have you been in, and where can people listen to all of that music? Also, Jeremiah, if you have any hidden musical talent, you are free to answer this as well if you've been keeping a band from us.
You have a Hold Steady tribute band, Jeremiah?
Oh. Okay, so I played the piano for 9 years. Then I had stopped because like the high school football team bullied, because this is Texas, like questioned my sexuality and bullied me out of ever like playing music for years. So it's cool. At one point I could play Piano Man, like the Billy Joel Piano Man, like really, really well. And I would do it at parties. And then it was the only song I knew. So I'd like play it and people would cheer. And then they would be like, play something else. And I would get really modest and be like,
how about Piano Man again?
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to show anybody up. Like, I don't want to. So yeah, that's my musical talent.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I love
brilliant.
That.
Coming soon to a party near you. Jeremiah's one song.
I played in bands from the time I played in a lot of like little just like groups in high school, but then like I graduated high school, moved into my college town and was living with my brother, and from 18 years old up until I moved to Austin 7 years ago, I was playing in bands pretty much constantly, and then moved to the live music capital of the world and stopped. Mostly because of like time. It's hard to do it when you're working full time and all that. But I don't think I'm going to tell you where to listen to it. Because the ones you can listen to, I don't really want you to. And then most of the bands I've ever played in, you probably can't find it anywhere. Maybe like some YouTube videos or something. But I played in a like 90s rock cover band when I was 18 called Secondhand Superman. That was a lot of fun. Played in that one with my brother. We started like a country southern rock band not long after that called Run Home Jack, and played in that band for like 4 or 5 years, and actually got to do some touring and like played all over the state with that group. Moved to Spain and played in a bluegrass band called Howdy, where I was not a good enough guitarist to be in that band. I'm a drummer by trade. That's what I've always done. Not good enough to be in that band, but I can sing okay and can like hit the high harmony. And I was from Texas, and they really liked that I was from Texas because it was all Spanish guys in the band. And so like, I feel like I like,
you were their authenticity.
That's right. I upped their street cred by the fact that I was from Texas, but I was absolutely not good enough to play in that band.
Amazing. Also, I want to ask Albert 10 here, what is your band? This would have been a perfect opportunity to plug it, and now it's too late. So tweet at us and let us know. Before we move on to this next question here, from Ryan Brackenridge. As a Tottenham fan, they've been wondering about Joe Rodon. Joe Rodon has had trouble getting some playing time. We think he needs a change of scenery and doesn't seem to have a girlfriend or wife. And so, maybe that's a perfect move to MLS here. Maybe a loan deal for the second half of the season, it says here. Attempt to buy down Ring, free up a DP slot. And that's kind of the question here is, do we want to bring in a Welsh center back?
Yeah, Mike, as a Spurs fan, are you familiar with this guy? Have you ever seen him play?
Yeah. He seems like fine squad depth for a Premier League team. So he would like instantly be
a starter for an MLS team.
Yeah, one of the best players in MLS on the defensive side of the ball. But I don't know how, like, from a league roster construction standpoint, I don't know how to justify a center back as a DP in 2023 here. Yeah,
I think he's still just like 25. I've never seen this guy play, but 25 years old, Welsh national team. So like, yeah, if we can get him, great. But it seems like a guy of that profile would probably want a lot of money if he were going to come at such a young age. So maybe not doable, but if we can get him, I'll take him. Sight unseen.
Yeah.
I will say right now his salary is around £500,000. And so he wouldn't be DP money necessarily, except like you'd be basically sacrificing your international career, I think, if you're coming to MLS as a center back on the Welsh team. Yeah.
And Transfermarkt says he's out of contract this summer. So if he's okay with those wages, then we could probably afford him. But yeah, as far as like where to look though, like these are the kind of people, right? Like a lot of really good players have come from like Liga players who got relegated, and MLS teams were ready to kind of like scoop those guys up and get the wages off the roster. So like this is kind of like the right profile of player to be looking at. This may be a bit on the wishful end of that range, but these are the guys that I would like for Austin FC to go after.
All right. Well, Sam White wants to know better about soccer, more about soccer. Sam wants to understand soccer tactics better. Where can they learn that other than reading Inverting the Pyramid?
Inverting the Pyramid is absolutely brutal. It's a rough read. It's mostly like a history book that eventually gets into talking about how tactics have changed over the years, which, like, if you're into history and that kind of thing, it's interesting. And I'm glad I know some of the things. One thing I would recommend over that is this little book that I'm showing in the window. It's called How to Watch Football. And it was produced by Tifo, which is, they started with like a YouTube channel and are affiliated with The Athletic now, but they do these little short YouTube series on, they'll pick like a manager and say like, what is this manager's style? Why has he been successful? What happened this year when they weren't successful? Or this formation or gegenpressing, or they'll like pick a little theme and do a 5 to 10 minute video about what this is, how it works. Really like good little digestible thing. And then this book, How to Watch Football, is kind of that, like chopped down into like a thick little like coffee table book. And so it's a lot of concepts that I was familiar with, but even just reading through it puts it into like a really digestible little way. And like, even though I was familiar with a lot of it already, it gave me like this construct of a way to talk about it and think about it in a more precise way, which was really helpful. So yeah, I'd recommend that for sure.
I would say Ted Lasso. Watch it on Apple TV. Really deep tactical stuff. I feel like you'll learn a lot. I mean, I cannot handle like just exclusively tactic stuff, and so I much prefer like listening to Backheeled or wherever Joe Lowry is, or Scuffed, or like some of the deeper
Total Soccer Show.
Yeah, TSS. Like we're in the like, it's interesting talk overall, and eventually like you listen to it enough that you like pick up on the tactical part of it too, because they do talk about that stuff in depth. It's also the way I can consume it better and understand it better, is just sort of hearing those same concepts over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I think doing like the podcast way is a good way to do it, because they're talking about specific games, and so you can watch those games and then listen to them talk about them, and then over time start to see the things that are happening in the games. Whereas like reading a book about it is a little tougher, because a lot of times like you're not watching along with it, and so it's all theoretical. Whereas the podcasts are often talking about specific games, and you can watch them and see exactly what they're talking about. So I found Total Soccer Show specifically really, really useful as I was trying to learn some of this stuff.
Yeah, I just, anytime I have a tactics question, I YouTube it. Like I search in YouTube, explain this basically. And so there's like a whole collection of YouTube creators who are actively trying to make soccer more digestible and understandable. It works all right for me.
Oh, also the coach's voice on YouTube. It's like masterclass style, where they actually bring in real coaches to talk about tactical stuff. That one's fun too.
Cool.
Nice. And then our last question here comes from ATX Bergkamp Lover 6969420. And it requests that both of you please rank your top 5 Coen brothers movies in order. Cheers, back.
Jeremiah, do you have a list?
Absolutely.
Okay, go for it.
Raising Arizona, which is like, I think probably still the best, and like I feel like it's the most definitive, like, oh, this is what a Coen Brothers movie is like. Fargo, second. No Country for Old Men, third. Miller's Crossing, fourth, and Big Lebowski, fifth. But I could go like 10 deep. I could go 10 deep on that, because there's some other stuff like what was the really weird one with Tim Robbins, The Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah.
Burn After Reading, which I know was super controversial. I liked. I loved Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Like I could go on.
I was looking through just like rankings, just like critic website rankings, to see, mostly just to refresh myself of what all movies were theirs. And one that I have pretty high in my list that most critics don't is Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I really love that movie. I just think it's like it's really nice to look at, like aesthetically pleasing. I really like the music in it, which they have some music in several of theirs, but I think the music in that one is a good and fun at the same time. And then one, I watched Blood Simple recently, which I think was their like first feature film, and has a little baby Frances McDormand in it, and that was actually very, very good. And it's like amazing how good they were at it from the very beginning. But I have never seen Raising Arizona. I have never seen Miller's Crossing. And then there's one called Barton Fink, which I don't think I'd ever even heard of, that is apparently very highly regarded, which I have to watch now.
So if you can't give me 5, Landon, in order, give me 3 in order, because that's the question, and they pay for this.
I'll say Fargo, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, No Country for Old Men, with Big Lebowski following up in 4th.
Nice.
I can tell you all my least favorite Coen brother movie.
Let's go. Yeah.
Their Macbeth is horrible. Horrible.
They did Macbeth?
They did a
it's
Macbeth.
brutal.
It's bad. It's Denzel and Frances McDormand, so it should have been good, but it was bad.
Yeah, if Denzel and Frances McDormand are bad in a movie, it's probably
the director's fault.
Yeah, it's directors and writers' faults probably.
It's not the writer's fault, let me tell you.
Well, they did they do like a straight
the
up
adaptation was really bad. That's all I have to contribute to that conversation.
Okay, Jeremiah, how are we doing on time here?
We've got a little bit left. I'm not Jeremiah, but I'm answering anyway because I started a timer for us. So I have picked out my favorite Twitter question out of the list. So these came from tweets to the show. And Gina Gatto wants to know, in the podcast, if you could do an ad read for anything, what would you want it to be? And why is it Pringles? JK, but really, what's your dream ad?
I told Landon from the first show that we did, if we ever got stamps.com, that is how I would know that we had made it as podcasters. Because I've been listening to people do stamps.com ads for 20 years. But I don't know. Is this just like among the... Is this
just
well, I guess there's no context.
Dream ad.
Anything. Dream ad.
Do y'all have an answer, Mike and Steph?
Oh, no, but I can come up with one.
I just want it to be so popular that we can say whatever we want to in the ads, like they do on Pod Save America. And the advertiser doesn't care because so many people listen to it.
I want advertisement for joy. Not
Joy.
The dish soap, not the brand, just the concept of happiness. That's what I would like to be advertising.
Paid for by the Dalai Lama or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not like, I don't care. Honestly, me and Jeremiah are not proud people. We'll read an ad for whatever you want to pay us to.
Yeah. Do I get to pick my favorite then?
Go for it.
Okay. Hudson George asks, our first home opener was 2 years ago today. What's your top Q2 moment thus far?
Oh man. I'll pick one and leave some of the other good ones for y'all, but I'll go with Musajite hat trick.
I'm going to go with the most obvious one, and part just because of where we were, like Brad Stuver save to win the RSL playoff match in the South End right in front of us.
I'm going to go with Rodney Redes' goal.
Of course.
And I will pick beating Frisco in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the only other one that you could put alongside those would be like Gallagher's first goal in the stadium. But yeah, lots of good ones to choose from. Most of them happening last year.
Yeah,
mine was this year, so I've got time on my side.
How about this food question? We could do that one too, right? Like, do you have an in stadium and stadium adjacent food recommendation?
I had the green hot dog the other day, and it was real good at T-Lokes. They have a Verde dog. It's very, very good. That's maybe my favorite food in the stadium. Outside of the stadium, over at Fairweather Cider, they have a Spicy Boys truck, and getting the spicy nuggets there Very, very good.
Yep. +1 to Spicy Boys outside for sure.
Yeah,
I love
Halal
the
Taza is our normal spot, so
is it y'all
put in a
spot?
plug for them.
And then I love the burger at Turnstile outside of the stadium.
Oh, that's very good too.
And I will get that. Just go to Turnstile and eat a burger. And then inside, I still think the pepperoni rolls are like the best value. But there's several nacho options. The Casa Chapala nachos are the best of the nacho options. It's a local Tex-Mex place. Get the best set of toppings for sure.
Yeah, my pride keeps me from saying that Double Dave's is the best in stadium food, but so I've got beef with Double Dave's.
Unless they want us to read an ad, in which case
no beef. But their pepperoni rolls are honestly too good.
For me in the stadium, it's always a Valentina's taco.
That's great too.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
All right. Do we need to be done or do we have time for any more?
Yeah. Do y'all want one more or do y'all want to be?
Let's do one more.
All right.
Landon,
I'm asking my own question.
Or Mike does. Okay. Mike gets to ask his own question. That's fair.
Yeah. What other type of show or stream or podcast would each of you like to do?
Oh, man.
If you could have a show, stream, or podcast about anything, what would you do?
Well, let's take this time to plug y'all's other shows while we're thinking about it. Where can listeners find your other work, guys?
You can find my Shakespeare podcast at P2M Pod on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yeah, we have 7 years of an adventure, like a Dungeons and Dragons adventure called Adventure Incorporated. You can find that everywhere that podcasts are served. And then we also mostly every other Wednesday do The View style talk show with 4 little squares here with a couple of our best friends out on the East Coast called In Addition. And that's on twitch.tv/inaddpod.
And all of them are very, very good. Y'all are good podcasters. And I'm proud to have y'all in our channel.
Yeah, and y'all have hit on this exact discussion is why I could tell you like what I have thought about doing and what I've explored somewhat as like a sort of local politics culture podcast because there's like not a really there's an absence of it, and I feel like if I could just like get my friends out to talk about it, would probably be pretty good. But I don't have the time or want to make the effort, and that is really where I fall down. And that is something that y'all don't seem to struggle with.
Oh, it's because every show that we do takes no prep.
Yeah.
Like my Shakespeare show, the guest has to bring both sides of the argument and they surprise me with it. So it's like a concept, but really it's a concept disguising the fact that I can't do any pre-work.
Somebody else is doing all the work. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I see new avenues to my podcast streams.
Yeah.
The two things that I like thinking about and talking about as much as soccer are music and travel. I like before I made soccer my identity, it was very much so music, and it's a thing that I'll like geek out about and talk about any kind of style with any person with and like to get way in the weeds, which won't be a surprise to anybody who listens to this show.
I can't wait for Landon's music podcast.
I can't wait for Landon and Jeremiah's next show, which is Music Politics.
Ooh.
With Ted Nugent as our first guest.
Oh, no. This took a turn.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Okay, we should be done now. I don't know how long we've gone, but probably too long. Thanks for humoring us by listening to all of this. If you made it this far, Mike and Steph, thanks so much for joining in. It's always a lot more fun having you guys around in any setting, especially when we can do it on a podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, we will take a quick break and we're going to be done now, right, Jeremiah? We're recording this all out of order. So we'll just do the outro right now. So
nailed it.
Reminder to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Come find us on Twitter at LVHero87, JBentley_ATX, at Kruggles, and at future_X_skeleton. Is that right?
Without the underscores, that's perfect.
Oh, future X skeleton. Okay. And then sign up for the Patreon. I still need to send out a second wave of rewards this week. I will try to do that.
Brian Parker's going to ask me about that again. It can't drop off. So just heading that off right now.
The sooner you don't send that out, the more Jeremiah gets asked. So, Ryan, how late is acceptable for you to receive that package?
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. We will be back next week to review the Dallas and Houston matches and then preview the Inter Miami match and cover whatever news happens between now and then. Until then, I'm Landon Cottam.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
I'm Mike Cragnola.
Oh, I'm Steph Cragnola.
We'll get you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing, see you never.
La gente. Oh my God.